The cargo hold reeked of burning metal and fear. Rex pressed his scaled hand against the console as another explosion rocked the merchant vessel through its failing shields. Sparks flew from damaged circuits while his crew scrambled to reroute. Power to the engines! 3 pirate ships circled them like predators, their weapons charging for another strike. "Hull breach on Deck 7, shouted Nix from the engineering station. The young Valdorian's voice cracked with panic as he struggled to seal the emergency bulkheads. "We cannot take another hit like that." Rex studied the star chart floating above the navigation console. Their position showed them dangerously close to the galactic rim, where space grew thin and stars became scattered. More importantly, they were approaching the red zone that every spacer knew to avoid. The boundary of human space stretched across dozens of light years, marked on every chart with warnings in 17 languages. No ship had crossed that line and returned in over 3 centuries. The pirates fired again. This time the blast tore through their port engine, sending the merchant ship spinning toward the void. Emergency lights bathed the bridge in crimson as systems failed one by one. Rex felt his stomach drop as artificial gravity flickered. "Captain, we have lost main propulsion," reported Tal, the ship's mechanic. Her 6 arms moved rapidly across multiple control panels, trying to restore function to critical systems. "Life support will fail within 6 hours. The pirates have disabled our communications array." Rex looked at the tactical display. The pirate ships maintained their distance now, content to watch their prey drift helplessly. They would board soon, to claim whatever cargo remained valuable. His crew of 12 would either be sold into slavery or simply spaced to save resources. Valdorians brought good prices in the outer rim markets, but these particular pirates seemed more interested in sending a message about trespassing in their territory. "Sir, there is something you should see," whispered Nix, the young engineer. Had pulled up a different view on his screen. Their current trajectory would carry them across the human boundary within 4 hours. Rex felt his blood chill as he realized what that meant. Every child in the galaxy learned about the human wars in school. 327 years ago, the combined fleets of 43 species had driven humanity to the very edge of the galaxy after a conflict that lasted 2 decades. Humans had been aggressive expansionists then, claiming worlds and resources without regard for existing civilizations. The war ended when the human fleet retreated beyond the rim and established their forbidden zone. Since then, silence. No human ship had been detected in galactic space. No communication had ever been received from beyond their boundary. Scout. Ships sent to investigate simply vanished without sending back so much as a distress call. Trade routes curved around human space like water flowing around a stone. Some believed humans had died out in the harsh conditions at the galaxy's edge. Others whispered that they had become something worse. "Captain, the pirates are moving into boarding positions," announced Tal. Her voice remained steady, despite the circumstances. "They will reach us in 20 minutes. Rex faced an impossible choice. Allow the pirates to board and condemn his crew to slavery or worse, or cross into human space and face the unknown fate that had claimed every ship before them. He thought of his family back on Valder Prime, waiting for news of his return. His daughter had just started her studies at the engineering academy. His mate Vera managed their small freight business and trusted him to bring their ship home safely. The pirate vessels accelerated toward them, their weapon systems powering up for precision strikes designed to disable rather than destroy. Rex watched their approach on the scanner, calculating distances and time. His crew looked to him for orders, their alien faces showing the same fear he felt in his chest. "Nix, can we restart the maneuvering thrusters?" Rex asked quietly. The young engineer checked his readings twice before nodding. "We have enough power for perhaps 30 minutes of thrust. Not enough to escape the pirates or reach any inhabited system." Rex traced the boundary line on his star chart with one claw. The red zone began just ahead of their current position. Whatever lay beyond that line had kept the galaxy's most powerful civilizations at bay for over 3 centuries. But his options had run out along with their luck. All hands, prepare for emergency burn, he announced over the ship's communication system. We are crossing into human space. The silence that followed his words felt heavier than the vacuum outside. Their hull, tall 6 arms, stopped moving across her controls. Nick stared at him with wide eyes that reflected the emergency lighting. Even the sounds of the failing system seemed quieter. Sir, Tal said carefully, perhaps we should consider surrender. Pirates can be negotiated with. Humans cannot. Rex understood her fear. Every species in the galaxy shared the same legends about what happened to ships that crossed the boundary. Some stories claimed humans had become violent savages who tortured intruders before killing them. Others suggested they had developed weapons so terrible that ships were simply erased from existence. The truth was that nobody knew because nobody had ever returned to tell the tale. Firing maneuvering thrusters now, announced Nix. The ship lurched forward, struggling against its own damaged systems to change course. Behind them, the pirates accelerated in pursuit, clearly intending to stop them before they could cross the line. Rex gripped the command chair as their ship crossed into human space. For a moment, nothing changed. The stars looked the same. Space felt no different. The pirates continued their approach, apparently unaware or unconcerned about the boundary. Then every scanner on the bridge went silent. The pirates had simply vanished from their displays as if they had never existed at all. Rex felt his cruise. Fear deepened as they realized they were now alone in the most dangerous region of the galaxy, drifting deeper into territory that no alien had survived exploring. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as Rex's damaged merchant vessel drifted further into human territory. Hours had passed since they crossed the boundary, and his crew worked frantically to restore basic life support systems. The silence from their scanners remained absolute, as if space itself had swallowed every other ship in the galaxy. Tal struggled with the atmospheric recyclers, her 6 arms moving between control panels that sparked and smoked. Captain, the air scrubbers are failing. We have maybe 8 hours before carbon dioxide reaches toxic levels. Rex nodded grimly while studying their position. They had traveled nearly 2 light hours beyond the boundary, but their passive sensors showed nothing except empty space and distant stars. No ships, no stations, no signs of habitation anywhere. Perhaps the legends were true and humanity had simply died out in this desolate region. Contact, whispered Nix suddenly. The young engineer's voice carried a mix of relief and terror. 3. Ships approaching fast from our port side. Rex felt his heart race as shapes appeared on their short-range scanner. The vessels were unlike anything in his databases. Sleek and organic-looking, they moved with fluid grace that seemed impossible for mechanical constructs. No energy signatures registered from their propulsion systems, yet they accelerated smoothly through space as if swimming through water. They are surrounding us, reported Tal. Her voice remained steady, but Rex could see the fear in her large eyes. Should we attempt to communicate? Before Rex could respond, his communication console activated on its own. A human voice spoke in perfect Valdorian, though the translator struggled with some unfamiliar terms. Valdorian vessel, you have suffered damage and require assistance. Please do not attempt to alter course or activate any remaining weapon systems. We are moving to escort you to safety. Rex stared at the speaker in shock. The voice sounded calm and professional, nothing like the savage growl he had imagined from the stories. More surprising was the fact that humans had learned his language well enough to speak it fluently. This is Captain Rex of the merchant vessel Dawn Trader. We crossed your boundary while fleeing pirates. Our ship is severely damaged. Understood. Captain Rex, we have been monitoring your situation since you entered our space. Medical assistance is standing by if needed. Please follow our escort ships to Station Haven. The 3 human vessels took positions around Rex's ship, their movements perfectly coordinated. As they began to accelerate, Rex felt his ship being pulled along by some invisible force. His engines remained offline, yet they matched the escorts. Speed exactly. How are they doing that? Asked Nix in amazement. We have no thrust capability, but we are maintaining formation. Rex had no answer. The technology required to move another ship without physical contact was beyond anything the galaxy had achieved. He began to understand why no scout ship had ever reported back about human capabilities. Station Haven appeared on their screens like a small moon, its surface covered in docking bays and communication arrays. The structure was massive, easily capable of housing 1 million inhabitants. Rex counted dozens of human ships moving around it, each one featuring the same organic design as their escorts. "Captain, we are detecting massive power signatures from that station," whispered Tal. "The energy readings are off our scales." Their ship was guided into a docking bay large enough to hold vessels 10 times their size. As the bay doors closed, Rex watched atmospheric fields activate to provide a breathable environment. Gravity generators hummed to life, giving them normal weight for the first time since their engines failed. A delegation of humans waited on the dock as Rex and his crew emerged from their ship. They wore simple uniforms without visible weapons or armor. Rex had expected to see the battle-scarred warriors from the legends, but these humans looked more like scientists or diplomats. "Captain Rex, welcome to Station Haven," said a tall human with graying hair. "I am Commander Hayes of the Human Defense Corps. We apologize for the circumstances that brought you here, but we are pleased to finally meet representatives of the Valdorian people." Rex struggled to process the situation. These humans were treating them as honored guests rather than prisoners or threats. Hayes spoke with genuine warmth, and his crew showed obvious curiosity about their alien visitors. "Commander, we appreciate your assistance," Rex replied carefully. "However, we understand that no ship has ever returned from human space. What are your intentions regarding our presence here?" Hayes smiled at the question. "That policy exists, for reasons that I hope will become clear during your stay. Your ship requires extensive repairs that our engineers estimate will take several days. During that time, you are welcome to explore the station and learn about our civilization. When repairs are complete, you will be free to leave." Dr. Walsh, the station's chief medical officer, approached with scanning equipment. "With your permission, I would like to examine your crew for any injuries sustained during the pirate attack. We have medical facilities capable of treating most known species." Rex found himself agreeing to the examination despite his confusion. Nothing about this encounter matched the stories told throughout the galaxy. These humans seemed genuinely concerned for his crew's welfare and showed no signs of the aggressive behavior that had started the ancient war. As they were led through the station's corridors, Rex marveled at the advanced technology surrounding them. Holographic displays showed real-time images of nearby star systems. Artificial gravity remained perfectly stable despite the station's massive size. Most impressive were the gardens they passed, filled with plants from dozens of different worlds, including some Rex recognized from Valdorian colonies. "How do you know our language so well?" Rex asked Hayes as they walked. "And how did you obtain plants from our homeworld?" Hayes paused at an observation window that showed the vast expanse of human space beyond. "We have been watching and learning for over 3 centuries, Captain. Every transmission, every cultural exchange, every technological development in the galaxy has been monitored and studied. We know far more about your civilizations than you might expect." Rex felt a chill as the implications became clear. Humans had not been hiding in defeat at the galaxy's edge. They had been observing and preparing developing capabilities that remained hidden from the rest of the galaxy. The boundary was not a prison but a choice, maintained by beings who had grown far beyond their former selves. Rex found himself in the station's archives 3 days into his stay, surrounded by holographic displays showing galactic history from a human perspective. Dr. Walsh had volunteered to serve as his guide through the vast collection of data, her enthusiasm for sharing knowledge evident in every gesture. "Your people believe humans were driven to the galaxy's edge in defeat," Walsh said, manipulating controls to bring up tactical displays from the ancient war. The reality was quite different. The first images showed human fleets retreating from contested systems, their ships taking heavy losses against overwhelming numbers. Rex recognized the narrative from his own education about the Great Alliance that had finally contained human expansion. But as Walsh continued through the records, the story began to change. "This is the Battle of Kepler Station, 18 months before the war ended," Walsh explained. Holographic ships moved in three-dimensional space, showing formations and weapon exchanges with startling clarity. "Notice how our tactics evolved." Rex watched human forces systematically dismantle a combined fleet 3 times their size. Their ships moved with precision that seemed impossible, targeting specific systems to disable rather than destroy. Enemy vessels found themselves helpless as humans neutralized their weapons, engines, and communication arrays without killing their crews. "Your commanders were requesting peace negotiations within 6 months of this battle," Walsh continued. "Not because they were winning, but because they realized what we had become capable of." The next series of recordings showed the final year of the war. Human forces had stopped retreating entirely, instead establishing defensive positions that proved impossible to break. Every attack launched against them resulted in complete failure, with Allied fleets losing ships while inflicting no meaningful damage in return. "We had developed weapons that could disable entire fleets without destroying them," Walsh said quietly. "Energy fields that could stop ships dead in space. Defensive screens that absorbed any form of attack and converted it to power for our own systems. By the war's end, we were capturing enemy vessels faster than your alliance could build them." Rex stared at the tactical displays, trying to reconcile this information with everything he had learned about galactic history. "If you had such advantages, why did you agree to the boundary arrangement? You could have conquered the entire galaxy." Walsh paused the historical playback and looked directly at him. "That is exactly why we chose isolation instead. Do you know what happens when one species becomes powerful enough to dominate all others? We studied the patterns throughout galactic history. Empires rise, oppress, and eventually collapse, leaving chaos in their wake." She activated a different set of displays showing various galactic civilizations that had achieved dominance over their neighbors. The Krellian Empire had ruled for 2,000 years before internal rebellions tore it apart. The Synthetic Collective had assimilated dozens of species before their central intelligence developed fatal flaws. Each example showed the same cycle of power, corruption, and inevitable downfall. "Humans decided to break that cycle," Walsh continued. "We had the power to rule, but not the wisdom to rule well, so we chose withdrawal instead of conquest." Rex struggled to understand the implications. "But the Alliance fleets were demanding your surrender." "They were prepared to continue the war until humanity was completely destroyed." "Were they?" Walsh asked, bringing up communication records from the final peace negotiations. "Read these transcripts carefully, Captain," the holographic text showed. Desperate pleas from Alliance commanders begging humans to accept the boundary arrangement. Rex read requests for mercy, promises of non-interference, and increasingly frantic offers of tribute and technology sharing. These were not the words of victorious conquerors dictating terms to the defeated. "Your alliance leaders knew they could not win," Walsh explained. "They had realized that humans were holding back, using only enough force to defend themselves. Effectively, the boundary was their suggestion, not ours. They offered to quarantine us at the galaxy's edge if we would spare their civilizations from total conquest." Rex felt his understanding of galactic history crumbling around him. Everything his people believed about the great victory over human expansion was based on lies, told by leaders who had nearly led their species to extinction through arrogance and fear. "Why did you agree to their terms if you held such advantages?" he asked. Walsh smiled sadly as she deactivated the historical displays. "Because conquest would have made us the very thing we were fighting against. The galaxy feared human expansion because we were taking resources and territory without regard for existing populations. Proving we could take everything would not have made us better rulers, only more efficient oppressors." They walked through the station's residential sections, where Rex observed thousands of humans living normal lives. Children played in recreational areas while adults worked in various professions. Artists created sculptures and paintings inspired by alien cultures. Scientists studied problems from across the galaxy, seeking solutions they would never be able to share due to the isolation policy. The price of peace has been high, Walsh admitted as they watched a group of human children learning about Valdorian mathematics. Our people have grown and evolved in isolation, developing technologies and philosophies that could benefit the entire galaxy. But sharing that knowledge would require ending the boundary, and we are not certain the galaxy is ready for that level of change. Rex observed the advanced systems around him with new understanding. Artificial intelligence networks managed station operations with efficiency that surpassed the best galactic standards. Medical facilities could treat injuries and diseases that remained incurable beyond human space. Energy systems provided clean power without the environmental damage that plagued most civilizations. You have been advancing while the rest of the galaxy stagnated, he realized. Not stagnated, Walsh corrected gently. Your civilizations have grown in their own ways, developed art and culture and philosophy that we admire from afar. But yes, our forced isolation has driven innovation at rates that might be dangerous if shared too quickly. That evening, Rex stood in his quarters looking out at the vast expanse of human space. Thousands of lights marked stations, worlds, and ships that represented a civilization more advanced than anything in the galaxy. Yet they remained content to exist behind their self-imposed boundary. Watching and waiting while other species struggled with problems these humans could easily solve. Dr. Walsh had given him much to consider. The legends of human defeat were comfortable lies that allowed the galaxy to feel safe. The truth was far more complex and potentially disturbing. Humanity had chosen isolation not from weakness but from strength, recognizing that true power sometimes meant refusing to use it. Emergency alerts echoed through Station Haven's corridors as Rex finished his morning meal in the guest quarters. The peaceful atmosphere of the past week had been shattered by urgent announcements calling all senior staff to emergency stations. Through his window, he could see human ships moving with sudden purpose, their formations shifting from patrol patterns to combat readiness. Commander Hayes appeared at his door within minutes, his usual calm demeanor replaced by obvious concern. Captain Rex, we have received disturbing news from beyond our boundary. I believe you should hear this directly from our intelligence division. They hurried through corridors filled with humans moving efficiently to their assignments. Rex noticed that none showed panic despite the obvious urgency of the situation. Their discipline impressed him even as he wondered what crisis could affect these isolated people so deeply. The intelligence center occupied an entire section of the station, its walls covered with displays showing real-time information from across the galaxy. Rex recognized star charts marking trade routes, political boundaries, and military movements spanning dozens of sectors. The scope of human surveillance capabilities became clear as he watched data streams updating continuously. Admiral Torres, a stern woman with steel-gray hair and scarred hands, stood before the main display addressing a room full of officers. Her voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to making decisions that affected millions of lives. The Dominion Empire has accelerated their expansion beyond all previous projections, she announced. Their fleets have conquered the Alterian Republic, the Crystalline Confederacy, and the Outer Rim Coalition within the past month. Refugee populations are fleeing toward the galactic edge in unprecedented numbers. Rex felt his blood chill as he processed the implications. The Dominion had been growing for decades, absorbing smaller civilizations through conquest and forced integration. But the speed of their recent victories suggested capabilities that threatened the entire galactic balance of power. Show him the refugee situation, Hayes said quietly to the intelligence officer operating the main display. The screen shifted to show long-range sensor data from the boundary region. Hundreds of ships appeared as tiny dots, all moving toward human space at maximum speed. Rex recognized vessel configurations from a dozen different species, all fleeing the Dominion advance. Many of these ships will not survive the journey to inhabited systems beyond our territory, Torres explained. Their life support systems are failing, fuel reserves are exhausted, and some carry wounded who require immediate medical attention. Rex watched the display with growing horror as he realized the scope of the crisis. These were not just military retreats but entire populations abandoning their homeworlds. Families, children, elderly individuals who had never known war suddenly found themselves homeless refugees in the vast emptiness of space. "Some ships have already crossed into our territory," added the intelligence officer. "They are drifting helplessly, sending distress signals in 17 different languages. Our patrol vessels are conducting rescue operations, but the numbers are overwhelming our capacity." Admiral Torres turned to address Rex directly. "Captain, your knowledge of current galactic politics could prove valuable. What can you tell us about the Dominion's military capabilities and expansion strategies?" Rex found himself in the strange position of briefing humans about threats to the galaxy they had withdrawn from centuries ago. The Dominion uses psychological warfare as much as military force. They target civilian populations first, forcing governments to surrender to protect their people. Their fleets are large but not particularly advanced compared to the best galactic standards. Yet they are winning consistently, Torres observed. What advantages do they possess that overcome their technological limitations? Rex considered the question carefully. Numbers and ruthlessness. They conscript populations from conquered worlds, using them as expendable forces in subsequent campaigns. Their leaders show no concern for casualties on either side, making them unpredictable opponents for civilized governments. The discussion continued for hours as human officers questioned Rex about military doctrines, political structures, and economic systems throughout the galaxy. Their knowledge impressed him, but he realized they were viewing everything from the outside, lacking the personal connections that drove decision-making among the various species. "The Veldorian fleet will resist Dominion expansion," Rex said, "with certainty. My people have strong defensive traditions and well-trained crews. But alone they cannot stop this level of aggression." Torres nodded grimly. "According to our projections, the Dominion will control 60% of the galaxy within 2 years if their current pace continues. The remaining civilizations lack the coordination necessary to mount an effective defense." Dr. Walsh entered the intelligence center carrying a datapad filled with medical reports. "Admiral, we have examined refugees from 12 different species. The stories they tell are consistent. The Dominion is not just conquering territory but systematically destroying cultural institutions and forcing integration into their collective identity." Rex felt anger building as he heard the reports. This was not the normal expansion of a growing empire, but something far more sinister. The Dominion was erasing entire civilizations, replacing diverse cultures with a single homogeneous society under their control. "They are committing genocide on a galactic scale," he said quietly. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Human officers exchanged glances that conveyed volumes of unspoken communication. Rex realized he was witnessing a moment that would determine the future of both human isolation and galactic civilization. Admiral Torres called for private consultation with her senior staff, but invited Rex to remain as an observer. "For 3 centuries, we have maintained strict non-interference in galactic affairs. Our withdrawal was intended to prevent us from becoming the very threat we now face from the Dominion." Commander Hayes leaned forward in his chair. "The situation has changed, Admiral. When we established the boundary, the galaxy contained dozens of independent civilizations, capable of maintaining balance through mutual cooperation. If the Dominion succeeds, that balance will be permanently destroyed. Intervention could restart the cycle of human expansion that led to the original war," warned Captain Morris, the station's tactical officer. "Once we cross the boundary in force, how do we prevent ourselves from becoming the galaxy's new masters?" Rex listened to the debate with fascination and growing respect. These humans were not discussing whether they could stop the Dominion, but whether they should. Recognizing that their power carried responsibilities they were reluctant to accept, the discussion continued through the night as reports arrived of new Dominion victories and increasing refugee populations. Rex found himself serving as an unofficial ambassador, providing insights into galactic politics and cultural factors that would influence any human intervention. As dawn approached on the station's artificial day cycle, Admiral Torres called for a final vote among the human High Council representatives present. Rex watched as each officer cast their decision, knowing that the outcome would reshape both human isolation and the galaxy's future. The human High Council reached their decision at dawn on the station's artificial day cycle. Admiral Torres stood before the assembled officers, her weathered face reflecting the weight of choices that would echo across the galaxy for generations. To come, we will maintain our isolation policy, she announced, causing Rex's heart to sink. However, we cannot stand idle while genocide unfolds beyond our borders. A single fleet will cross the boundary to address the immediate threat, then return to human space. Rex felt confusion and hope warring in his chest as Torres continued. This intervention will be limited in scope and duration. We will not establish bases in galactic territory, claim worlds, or impose human governance on other species. Our goal is simply to restore the balance of power that has been disrupted. Within hours, Station Haven transformed into a center of intense military preparation. Rex watched human ships gathering in formations unlike anything he had seen before. Sleek vessels moved with fluid coordination, their organic design suggesting capabilities that defied conventional understanding of space combat. Commander Hayes showed Rex to the observation deck as Admiral Torres's flagship prepared for departure. The vessel was massive yet graceful, its hull seeming to shift and flow like liquid metal. Smaller ships took escort positions around it, creating a formation that looked more like a school of fish than a military fleet. "How many ships are you sending?" Rex asked, trying to count the vessels visible through the viewport. 57 ships, Hayes replied quietly. Admiral Torres commands the first human fleet, our most experienced combat unit. They have been training for situations like this since the boundary was established. Rex stared at the modest fleet size in disbelief. 57 ships against the entire Dominion Empire? They control thousands of vessels across dozens of sectors. Hayes smiled at his concern. Numbers are not always decisive in combat, Captain. Quality of equipment and training often matters more than raw quantity. Our people have had 3 centuries to perfect their methods. The fleet departed Station Haven with minimal ceremony, crossing the boundary into galactic space for the first time in over 3 centuries. Rex watched until the ships disappeared from view, wondering if he was witnessing humanity's return to galactic affairs or their tragic destruction. Against overwhelming odds, news of the fleet's progress arrived through the intelligence network over the following days. Rex learned that the Dominion had concentrated their forces for a massive assault on the Central Worlds, a coalition of 5 species that controlled important trade routes and manufacturing centers. "The battle is beginning now," announced Dr. Walsh as she joined Rex in the observation lounge. "Our long-range sensors are tracking fleet movements in the Nexus system." Rex wished he could witness the engagement directly, but human space remained too far from the battle zone for visual observation. Instead, he watched tactical displays showing ship positions and movement patterns updated through methods he did not understand. The first reports were encouraging. Admiral Torres had positioned her fleet to intercept the Dominion forces before they could reach the Central World's defensive positions. But Rex knew that initial positioning meant little against an enemy that outnumbered them more than 30-1. "Contact established with Dominion fleet," reported the communications officer. "Admiral Torres is broadcasting on all frequencies." The transmission appeared on screens throughout the station, showing Torres standing on her ship's bridge addressing the enemy forces directly. "Dominion vessels, you are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately. Your expansion ends here." Rex heard derisive laughter from the Dominion commander's response. "Humans? We thought your species had died out centuries ago. 50 ships against our entire battle group? This will be brief entertainment before we finish conquering these worlds." "What?" followed defied everything Rex understood about space combat. The human fleet moved as a single organism, their ships flowing through Dominion formations like water through a net. Enemy vessels found their weapons failing to lock onto targets that seemed to phase in and out of existence within minutes. Half the Dominion fleet had been disabled without suffering meaningful damage in return. Their ships drifted helplessly as human technology neutralized engines, weapons, and communication systems with surgical precision. Rex watched Dominion commanders broadcasting increasingly desperate surrender offers. "This is Admiral Torres 2. Old Dominion forces," came the transmission from the battle zone. "You will withdraw all military units beyond your pre-expansion boundaries within 30 days. Any attempt to resume conquest operations will result in the complete destruction of your fleet capabilities." The surviving Dominion ships fled the system within hours, abandoning their invasion force and leaving behind disabled vessels for the Central Worlds to capture. Rex realized he had just witnessed the most decisive military victory in recorded galactic history, achieved without killing a single enemy crew member. "How is this possible?" he asked Dr. Walsh as they watched the aftermath reports. 57 ships defeated a fleet of nearly 2,000 vessels. Walsh smiled at his amazement. 3 centuries of advancement while the galaxy remained relatively static. Our weapons can disable any known technology, our defenses can absorb unlimited conventional firepower, and our ships can move through space in ways that make traditional tactics obsolete. Reports continued arriving over the following days. The Dominion Empire had not only withdrawn from the Central Worlds but was pulling back from recently conquered territories across multiple sectors. Their expansion had stopped completely, reversed by the demonstration of human capabilities. More importantly, refugee populations were returning to their homeworlds as Dominion forces retreated. Entire civilizations that had faced extinction now found themselves free to rebuild and recover. From the trauma of conquest, Admiral Torres returned to human space after delivering a final message to the galaxy's political leaders. Rex watched her address to the assembled species, broadcast on every communication network beyond the boundary. "The isolation of humanity continues," Torres announced. "We have intervened only to prevent the complete destruction of galactic civilization. The boundary remains in effect, and we will respect your sovereignty as long as you respect ours." Her final words carried unmistakable warning beneath their diplomatic language. "However, we will not ignore attempts at genocide or the complete conquest of galactic civilization." The line at the galaxy's edge now serves a dual purpose. It protects humanity from galactic politics, and it protects the galaxy from conflicts that threaten the existence of entire species. Rex prepared for his return to Valdorian space as his ship's repairs neared completion. Commander Hayes personally saw him off, providing sealed data packets containing proof of his extraordinary experience. "Your people will not believe what you have seen here," Hayes said as they shook hands in the human style. "But perhaps some will understand that the galaxy has guardian angels watching from the edge of space." Rex's journey home took 3 weeks, giving him time to process everything he had learned about human civilization and their role as reluctant protectors of galactic stability. The red zone on every star chart remained, but its meaning had changed forever. When he finally reached Valdorian space, Rex found a galaxy transformed by the knowledge that humanity had returned, however briefly, to galactic affairs. The boundary was respected more than ever, but fear had been replaced by a strange form of gratitude. Humans no longer hid at the galaxy's edge because they were weak. They remained there because they were strong enough to choose peace over conquest, and wise enough to intervene only when the alternative was the destruction of everything they had withdrawn to protect. The line they had drawn 3 centuries ago now marked not just their territory, but the frontier between civilization and chaos.